Hi, I am Mr. Crocker. Excuse me, and I'm going to talk to you about some more measuring today. So, in the previous measuring lesson, we were looking really at the ruler and the fractions on the ruler. You know how it goes from 1/8 to 1/4 to 3/8 and so on. And we were just kind of getting familiar with what all those marks mean and being able to name a line where something stops and say this was 2 3/8 inches long. Okay, in this lesson, we're gonna go past that a little bit. It's really just kind of a different skill. And the skill we're gonna be looking at today is measuring something and only with whole inches and half inches. Okay, so we simplified there, but the thing that we are measuring is not going to be starting on zero. Okay, so the concept here that we really need to understand is that if this thing that I'm holding, okay, if this is an inch long, see how it goes from 1 to 2? This is an inch. That this thing is still an inch long, no matter where I place it. Okay, so this is an inch, and look, if if something starts at a half and goes to 1.5, okay, that the distance from here to here, that's 1 inch. Okay. Same thing if I put it from here to here. This distance is 1 inch. Okay, and I can move that down the ruler. Look, that's still an inch. This distance is an inch. Okay. The distance from a half to the next half, that's an inch. So it's really just understanding that on this ruler, 2/2 makes an inch, and being able to count up those pieces, like I have 1/2, 2/2, 3/2, 4/2, and knowing how much you have there so that you can measure something. You can say how long an object is without it starting at zero and just looking at where it stops. Okay, you're sort of going to be counting up the length instead of just looking at the end point. So let's take a look at that. Okay, if I have an object that starts here and it goes to there, well, how long is that object? Okay, we could do this a couple of ways. We could say that it starts at a half inch and it goes to 2, and we could subtract. Okay, so we could say 2 minus a half is 1.5, and that works. So this is 1.5. But another way to do this, and I think probably an easier way to do this, is to just sort of count up and figure out how many whole inches we can make out of that. So here's what I mean. Okay, this object starts on this line and it stops here on the 2-inch line. So how many pieces do I have in there? Well, I have 1, 2, 3 pieces, right? And these pieces on this ruler, they're all half-inch pieces. And they will also be half-inch pieces on your assignment. So if I have 3 halves, what do I have, right? We know that 2 halves makes a whole, right? So if I have 3 of those, I have 1 whole and a half. Okay, so I got the same answer I did when I subtracted. This object is 1.5 inches long, and that's the same as 3 half-inch pieces. Okay, let's try another one. So let's say that I have an object that starts at 1 inch and it goes to 3. Okay. Well, here, the subtraction is easier, right? 3 minus 1 is 2. That's 2 inches. It is. It's 2 inches. But another way we could look at this would be to say how many half-inch pieces does that object cover? Okay, well, it covers 1, 2, 3, 4, right? There's 4 half-inch pieces that it covers. If I have 4 halves, there's 2. 4 half-inch pieces makes 2 holes. So that's like 2 inches. Okay, and that's a 2-inch object using my ruler. Okay. Okay, what if it starts at half and goes to 3? How long is that object? I'm just going to count the half-inch pieces. Okay, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 half-inch chunks were covered. So now if I have 5 halves, what does that combine to make? Well, that's 2. I'm going to 5. 3, 4. Well, there's only one more. I'm not going to be able to make another hole. So there's my 5th one. I made 2 holes and a half. So this object is 2.5 inches long. Okay. Now, what if you were asked to start at a certain point? Let's start here again and draw a 2-inch line. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to draw an object that's 2 inches. Well, since I'm not starting at 0, I'm not going to stop at 2. Okay, so if I know I'm trying to draw 2 whole inches, and I know my ruler here is measuring in half-inch chunks, 2 holes has 4 halves in it. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. If I draw an object that covers 4 half-inch pieces, it should be 2 whole inches. Okay, and it does. And you might be able to imagine that if I slid this back to the very start and measured it from 0 like we really should, that it would stop at 2. Okay, so the distance from here to here is 2 inches, just like the distance from 0 to 2 is 2 inches. Let's do another one like that. Okay. Let's say that I'm starting at 1.5 inches, starting here, and they say draw a 2-inch piece. Well, 2 inches again is 4 halves. So I'm just going to draw over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm stopping here. Okay. So if I've counted right, and I think I have, that object that I just drew is 2 inches long. Okay. And you know, you can kind of imagine if I picked it up and slid it, it would be 2 inches. Because 4 half inches makes 2 inches, even if you don't start at 0. If you go over a half inch 4 times, you have gone over 2 whole inches. Okay, let's do a different amount. Let's say I'm starting at 1.5. Well, we'll start at 1. I need to draw a 4-inch line. My ruler's not big enough. We'll draw a 3-inch line. Okay, so if I'm going to draw a 3-inch line, 3 inches that way, okay, I need to think about how I'm going to count 3 inches. You know, one way I could do it would be just to go 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches, right? That works. So that's a 3-inch line. And that works easily because I'm starting on 1 whole inch. We could also look at this and say, okay, if I'm going to draw 3 whole inches by counting up by half inches in 3 holes, there are 6 halves. So I would need to cover 6 half-inch chunks. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've done that. Okay, I've covered 6 half-inch chunks. I can start here and do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so since I started back half an inch from where I started last time, my object also ends half an inch earlier. Because if my object is 3 inches, that distance should be the same whether I scoot it, right? It's not going to like stretch, or 3 inches is 3 inches. And if I count the jumps like I did when I drew it, it should be 6 half-inch pieces again. Okay? So I hope that helps. I hope that helps you see how you can still use a ruler to measure things even when the object doesn't start on 0.